Brad, good to see you, man.
Good to see you. I remember you. You and I used to work together back in 2021. You've been gone for a while.
You've been gone too. Are you? Looks like you're home.
Yes.
Cool. Good. We'll have to catch up.
Morning, Brad. Right. I met you a couple of weeks ago or months ago now, maybe. How you doing, Brad?
Hey, good to see you.
Robert Bosley's on here. That's pretty cool.
I know we have a star on the line here.
Oh man, we got
a nationally recognized leader.
Not here.
We got a host of stars on this call. It's going to be fun.
Fun.
All right, we still have some people rolling in. For those of you that have already signed on, thank you. Some of you signed on early. We really appreciate that. And I see we've already got something in the chat box. That's great. Let's keep that rolling. And we're going to wait just another minute or two, see if others want to catch up, and then we'll get this rolling. We're going to have a great time today. Oh, that's Angie Bailey in the chat box. She's awesome. Thank you, Angie. All right. Let's go for it. Well, hey, welcome. This is Lyle Hanna. We're delighted that you're here to join us for Crisis Management for COVID-19, Phase 41. We've been doing these for a while now, since way back last March. Took a little break here because there's so many other things going on and things weren't as urgent, but we're going to have a great day today. But we're kind of picking up on some other issues that are going on, some of them caused by COVID, some of them probably not. But this one is definitely being impacted by COVID, and that is navigating the Great Resignation is what this has been called. And let's flip on to the next slide, Chase. And we've got somebody new joining us, and you'll recognize the last name. Mr. Morris, Jim Morris, who's with us all the time, is not available today. He's got a court calling or something like that. So we are, his stand-in is Tyler Morris. Sound familiar? Tyler Morris Sr. I got to figure it's the one with the dark glasses that's going to be speaking, and not Junior that he's holding.
Yeah, it's good to be me today. You got to put up with me for the day.
Jim's son, and Tyler has done a lot of the background work for Jim each week when we've done these. So Tyler, we're just delighted to have you here. And then we've got members of our team, Allison and Autumn and Chase are in the background helping us with a lot of stuff, keeping this thing rolling. Let's flip to the next slide here and keep it going. Here's what we're going to here's what we're going to cover this time. We're going to talk about this Great Resignation. We've got a super panel that I'll introduce in just a minute of folks, HR and business finance folks that are going to share with us what's going on in their company and how they're dealing with some of these challenges. And then we're going to get a legal update from Tyler. So I promise this to be a great call. We will go on beyond 12. I suspect we'll be about 12:30 when we wrap up, but hang in here with us. And we're just delighted you're here. Please use that chat box, if you will, and give us your questions and comments. And, we may just click on you if you want to speak up. That's okay with us too. So just a little background as we get going here. We're going to put out a little survey on this Great Resignation because we want to know how many of you are being impacted by this. Kendra, get back in here for just a second. When we started this, Kendra was here with me. Many of you know Kendra. While you're filling out this survey, I want to introduce Kendra. She's worked with us for 8 years on and off. She leaves us. One time she got married, moved to Louisiana. That really tore us up. But when she came back to work for us. And then she had some kids, and you know how that is with 1 and 2 year olds at home. So she took another break, but man, she's back now. She's our chief operations officer, and things have never run smoother. So Kendra, we're so glad you're back here. And she's in the room with me helping with things today. And I'm hoping she'll speak up some. So it's really nice to have you here. Okay, are you experiencing a lot of current resignations? Just let us know what you think. And Tyler will summarize those for us and get back to us. Let's go to the next slide, Tyler. there have been a couple of really, Chase, I'm sorry. I am so confused today. We have an employee named Tyler that works for Chase, and then we got Tyler on the call. So I've got Tyler on the brain, but Chase. Okay. So
you want me to share them now?
Yeah, put that.
Yeah, we want to see.
Oh, sure. Yeah, show us. Okay. Are you experiencing a lot of turnover? 60%. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. So that kind of confirms that we ought to go on with this call. If everybody said no, we're going to just stop right now and cut it short. But there is a lot going on out there. And so what in the heck's causing all this stuff? And what do the statistics look like? Get this big study that we've been following closely on the next slide. That, you know, COVID has had profound changes, impact on people, and it's shaken things up. And so look at these numbers. Do you plan to retire? Do you plan to look for a new job this year? 52% said yes across the nation. 31% said no, thank you, those people, we appreciate you. And 17% undecided. So that's a pretty big number too. So some serious numbers. Really, people are looking at this. Now, why are they looking at it? Let's go to the next slide. First thing is better compensation and benefits. That's driving this thing a lot of places, 36%. You all may know we do a ton of compensation work. And so we're right in the middle of helping a lot of employers just trying to kind of catch up. They're looking at what kind of raises they're going to give this year, but they're looking at, are we going to have to adjust a lot of people? So that's going on. It's kind of expensive, but you know, if you can afford it, people need to do it, because losing these people can be, you know, dramatic. So, but
we are seeing market rates at those lower level jobs jump drastically compared to where they might have been last year or the year before.
Well, so the federal government has just set this minimum wage for government contractors at $15 an hour. So you can bet that number's been jumping up for years, but not officially. You know, across our communities, hardly anybody's paying $7.25 anymore. But man, oh man, the competition is just so huge now. People are leaving jobs in medicine to go to McDonald's because they're giving bonuses. So there's a lot of stuff going on that you got to kind of keep up on. But the other reason they're leaving is better work-life balance. Isn't that interesting? They spend all this time at home and they realize, geez, I really do have a home life and it's not so bad and I need to spend time with people, and the families start to expect that. So how do you get better work-life balance? Some companies are great at it. Some of them are lousy at it. So that's a big issue. So these are things that you ought to think about in your company. Here, get this next one. I think it's really important. 16% of people are saying not being recognized for my work. This is kind of a unique situation that's been brought on by COVID, and that is a lot of people, when they're at home, felt guilty. They felt like their bosses did not feel like they were doing much work, even though they were. In fact, sometimes they were working their butts off. You know, they were doing extra work. You know, I know. I didn't even have a boss and I was working twice as hard at home. You know, it just felt like you needed to do more. And so that's a tough issue. So think about that. Even now, you know, not everybody's back at work. A lot of people still want to work from home. Are you giving the proper recognition to those people that are at home? And when they're coming back, are you showing your appreciation for them? So that's a big thing to hang on to these people, is the work-life balance and appreciation. Look at that bottom table. Which of the following best describes why you would remain at your current employer? Because this is important. If we can enhance these things, we'll be better off. So work-life balance, that's one thing. The people that have that, it's really valuable. I'm recognized for my work. You see, these are the opposite of the ones above. This is kind of cool. These are big numbers: compensation, corporate benefits.
And what's the most interesting is compensation may be why someone is switching jobs, but it's not why your people are staying. So, and it is, I mean, it's 19%, but if you can hit the work-life balance and the recognition piece, a lot of times the cost isn't as high with that as it would be with the comp and the benefit. So you really need to keep your people focusing on that work-life balance and that employee recognition. So excited to hear what some of our panelists do for those.
So a lot of cool things going on, and there's some good data out there. We're willing to share with folks that they need it. So what do? Well, we said, well, you know, we work with a lot of folks, and we've got some great companies in Kentucky. How many of you know about best places to work in Kentucky? I know I tend to talk about it a lot, but we haven't talked about it on these calls too much. But, you know, they're in their 16th year. What's that?
Will you hit the next slide?
Oh, yeah, next slide. Yep. It's in its 16th year. We had a big celebration this year down in Rupp Arena. It was the biggest event in a year and a half at Rupp Arena in Lexington. We recognized 100 companies. And we've got representatives from 4 of those companies. And some of these have been on the best place to work list for many years, but we wanted to talk to them because they do a great job of keeping their employees engaged and rewarding them and taking care of them. They are great at doing some of the things on this list that come out as being the most important. So let me introduce to you right now, Danita Ross, Director of Human Resources for Bluegrass Care Navigators, better known as Hospice of the Bluegrass, but for many, many years. But they are not just in Lexington, they are all cover a lot of Eastern Kentucky. So really great to have Danita on here. Peel and Holland. That was the #1 company on the list back in 2018. Again, this year, 2021. Janice Winder is on here. She's the head of human resources for Peel and Holland. It's an insurance company based in Paducah, but they have offices all over the western part of the state. So Janice, we are so glad to have you here. And then we've got Robert Bosley. I tell you what, he is the greatest guy, Chief Financial Officer for Fischer Homes. They're a over $1 billion home building company. They build entire neighborhoods. They're not just in northern Kentucky, though. That's their headquarters, but they're in Cincinnati, they're in Columbus, they're in Indianapolis, they're in Atlanta, they're in Louisville, and they've built communities all around Kentucky. So Robert Bosley, just a super guy. Robert, we're so glad you're here. Thank you very much. And to wrap up this team of panelists, we have Staci McArter Galloway. She's with PharmaCord. This is an organization over in Louisville. They have grown from 200 to 400 employees in the last year. She's the director of HR. I bet she's got a lot of time to snooze and take off, like 10 minutes a week. She's got to be working every minute. Staci, we are so glad you've joined us. So let's flip to the next slide. And we're just got some questions we're going to throw out. And why don't you all take them and answer them in the order that I just gave, just to keep it organized. So can you share a little bit about yourself, your role in your organization? Danita, take it away.
All right. Well, good morning to everyone. Yes, I am Danita Ross, and I'm the VP of Human Resources here at Bluegrass Care Navigators. I've been with this organization for about 23 years, and I've been in human resources for over 30 years. Our organization, of course, we take care of, most people, as Lyle says, think of us as Hospice of the Bluegrass. We went through a brand change a few years ago, primarily because we do have other service lines. We do extra care private duty. We have a transitions programs that we work with insurance companies, with the hospitals around the state to help take care of patients who have been discharged from the hospital to make sure that they take their medications correctly and they don't have a lot of readmissions. We do some of the homeless initiatives with the city to take care of patients that don't have a home to go to once that they are discharged from a hospital. So they are put up in a hotel, and we have nurses that call them or go and check on them to make sure that they are being compliant with their medications. We're right now doing a program with the University of Kentucky on opioids. It's called Project Heal. So we do have other service lines besides hospice, and that's why we are called Bluegrass Care Navigators. And we are in 32 counties across Kentucky. There are other hospices besides Bluegrass Care Navigators, but we are in 32 of those counties, Eastern Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Central Kentucky, which includes Cynthiana and Frankfort. And we also have 3 inpatient care units, 2 here in Lexington, 1 at UK, 1 at St. Joseph's, and the other one is a standalone unit in Hazard, Kentucky.
Great. Cool. Thank you, Danita. And Janice?
Hi, I'm Janice Winder, and I work at Peel and Holland. And actually been in Peel and Holland, it will be 16 years this year. 3 years of that has been with human resources, and prior to that I worked actually on our benefits team because we do have insurance for both individual group insurance, whether it's property and casualty or employee benefits. So basically we have about any kind of insurance that you would need for your as an individual or an employer. And but I've got, even prior to that, human resource experience, and I've enjoy just being a part of the process with Best Places to Work, and actually use it, you know, in our in just in how we actually run our business, you know, so it's been a good, you know, tool for us. But like I said, we're in Western Kentucky, 5 locations, and just glad to be here today.
Cool, great. Robert.
Hey, good morning, everyone. And Lyle, thank you for having me today. So Robert Bosley, Chief Financial Officer at Fischer Homes. I've been here for just a little over 2 years, and I'll give you a little bit of background on Fischer Homes. But we've been in business for about 41 years. We're a family-owned business headquartered in Northern Kentucky, you know, operating, you know, throughout, you know, the Midwest, a little bit of the Southeast. We did just expand into the St. Louis market back in May. So that's been really exciting. So if you guys have been following the news and about the home building industry and what is going on, it is true. So, you know, last year, you know, we had a great year and had about $800 million in revenue. This year, you know, we're looking at probably a little over 1.3 billion. So adding $500 million in revenue in a year has been pretty exciting, but it's also bringing, you know, some challenges here. So I'm interested to learn a little bit about, you know, how people are handling it. So thank you for having me today.
You bet. We're glad you're here. And Staci, last but not least.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. So my name is Staci McArter Galloway, and I'm the Associate Director of HR here at PharmaCord. I have been with PharmaCord. I'm actually a veteran. I've been here for 2.5 years. So PharmaCord is a company, we're only 4.5 years old. So I was actually one of the first 50 hires for the company. Actually, I was hire number 50. So they realized once they hit that threshold, it was time to hire a head of HR. So I've been with the company and helping them grow over the last couple of years. And we are actually growing growing and expanding as well. We have a new facility that's a state-of-the-art building that we're going to be opening later this year, where we're going to bring all of 450 employees in all 3 of our locations under one roof. It's actually over in the River Ridge, Jeffersonville, Indiana area. So we're really excited about that. And just a little bit about us as a company. What we do is we provide customized patient services solutions to pharmaceutical manufacturers to help them better reach their patients. Our tools help reduce barriers that patients experience when trying to get access to their therapy by working directly with their health insurance provider, their physician, any other stakeholder involved in that process to help with therapy and medication access and adherence. So we build and hire a team, and we train them, and we give them all the tools that they need to provide that service to those patients and get them access to that medication.
Great, cool. All right, Danita, back up to you. All right, does your organization track turnover? And if yes, what's the current turnover? What direction is it going?
Well, we do track turnover, and we have always tracked turnover, especially being in healthcare. And our current turnover is tracking at about 14% for this year. And you may think, wow, that's really high. But for healthcare, you know, in the industry, you know, you see turnover, you know, 25%, 30%. So we feel that our turnover is really good. Last year during 2020, our turnover was around 15%, and the year before 16%. So turnover so far has reduced, and I think a lot of it is the initiatives that we have been putting forward with our Best Places to Work. You know, trying to make sure that we are a best place and that we care for our employees.
All right, cool. And Janice, how about Peel and Holland?
Yes, so we do not track turnover as far as just, I guess, the traditional way of reporting. You know, I guess where we really focus is, you know, insurance is a very unique business in that it's not for everyone. And a lot of times it's not, and it's even something that, I mean, very few people will walk out of college or school thinking, oh, I want to work for insurance. I want to sell insurance or work in that world. So somehow we all just kind of land here, and then we either feel like that's where we need to be, or else it's not. So we go through a very thorough, I would say, onboarding and even hiring process, that it's not just about us finding that right person, what we feel would be the right fit to complete that role, and also to complete and be a part of our team. and fit our culture, but it's also for them to interview us, because, you know, we make it very clear what that role is and the expectations. And so it's them also, before we, you know, go further, is making sure that's something they feel like that would fit into their you know, desires, and even just, you know, their family life. So we've been blessed that we haven't had a lot of turnover in that situation. So.
All right, good for you. Robert, how's it going in your business?
I think we've been blessed with a really strong industry over the last 2020 and starting in 2021. And, you know, so I think, you know, during that time, we've actually had remarkable stability. So certainly I believe that, you know, some of the industry just working really well has helped us. But I would say, you know, 2 years ago, right about the time I joined the company, you know, there were some pretty intentional efforts made, you know, to look at our compensation and look at our benefits. And we went through the best places to work. And while we worked with your team, you know, on a number of things to say, you know, how can we not only be the builder of choice, but also be the employer of choice. And so I think through a lot of those efforts, you know, plus a little bit of a tailwind on the industry, we've seen turnover, you know, in the 3 to 4% range, which is, you know, lower than what we would have seen in the past. We have a large sales organization. Often in that sales organization, you're getting double digits easily, you know, on that, and we're just not seeing it today, fortunately. So I think there's, you know, a little bit of credit to go around in a couple of different areas, but, you know, we've been blessed here recently to be able to, you know, have a pretty stable team.
All right, good. Staci, how are things going at PharmaCord in terms of?
Yeah, so I can actually relate to some of the comments that were mentioned. I'm not going to share our turnover number. We haven't experienced an increased turnover percentage, and I would contribute it to a couple of different things. But certainly, you know, we are also in a healthcare related industry where there's actually just recently heard this term called sympathy fatigue. So, you know, those roles where you're really serving patients and serving people on top of your own personal going through a pandemic, you know, I think we have seen some turnover in, as it relates to just the type of work, but also we also have a lot of the similar challenges where this type of role and the pace of our industry isn't for everybody. And one of the things that we've done to reach new markets and hire new people is we hire people directly out of school. They can, you know, right after finishing their 4-year degree, and in some cases we've launched programs we've hired them while they're, you know, still going to school. That might be their very first job, and are still exploring and determining, you know, if that's really what they want, if they're the right fit for them, or maybe feel like they're not getting a promotional opportunity fast enough or whatever it is. So in addition to, you know, very experienced professionals, you know, the whole, you know, we really focus on being as thorough in the recruitment process to make it very clear, you know, this is what this role is going to look like, because we're a service provider and service organization. So, and then we're also growing. I mean, like I said, we just the first quarter of this year, we had to hire over 100 people to support one client that we launched. So, you know, we did so in a 90-day time frame, and, you know, we held a number of different virtual hiring events, info sessions, and different things to really, you know, provide as much information through that process. And, you know, we hired 100 people within a short time frame, and naturally there was, you know, some turnover as a result of that, in terms of, you know, people just kind of figuring out if this was really the right fit for them. They also start and they go through 6 weeks of a crash course where they learn disease state, you know, all about the disease state and the client that they're going to be supporting and the types of services we provide and about our technology. So, so it's a lot when you're also navigating a pandemic and the other personal things that people have been experiencing. So we've done a lot of different things to reduce that, and you know, and to maintain this culture that we've created. And, you know, we've really kind of created a new strategic recruitment process to help hone in on the right people that are going to really enjoy this type of work.
Wow. Okay. That's good stuff. And gosh, it's getting harder and harder to recruit people. We know, because like last month we hired 80 people, you know, for different companies, and we got to keep coming up with new techniques to get them in the door. But also, you mentioned this, that it's a good lead in for Danita. In healthcare, there's been a lot of stress on people, and, you know, the pressure is right on a lot of them. And certainly in the elder care area, that Danita is working in a lot, I would think that would really be tough, to keep up with those people. So let's see, Danita, back to you just a minute. What are there any unique offerings that you're providing to retain employees? Anything that you've implemented, as a result of this current labor market situation, and maybe even the results on your best place to work survey?
Yeah, and Staci, you did give me a good lead in on this. Our top priority and a part of our strategic plan initiative is people strategies, to be able to get people in the door, but also to retain our current team members. Some of the things that have come out of that because of COVID is, we've done a lot of communication with our staff, just because there's so much information that's out there, whether you're watching CNN or the local news or the governor talking, and, which network is giving you the right information. We have a session called COVID and Coffee, and we do that about every 2 weeks. And
yum.
It's in the morning, we usually do that about 8:30 a.m. On a Friday, and it just provides communication to our team members on new developments with the virus and with vaccines. Should they take the vaccine or not take the vaccine? And as you hear in the news, there's a lower number of healthcare workers that are taking the vaccine. So we are really, without making it mandatory, we're really trying to encourage our team members to be vaccinated, and talking about the pros and cons of that. And also, on that panel, we have our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Cote. We have emergency management staff, our infection control nurse. We have our leadership, our CEO and our COO and chief clinical officers, just to be able to support our staff. In addition to that, we do leadership development because, as we all know, we want to ensure that leadership is embedded in our culture, and we want to identify the best practices, from our best places to work survey, and make sure that we are diving into that data and determining which of our leaders are positively impacting team culture, and document what their successes are, how they can help other leaders in our company, and put together some improvement plans, for our teams. And we've been concentrating on the health of our teams. And as you said, not only are they trying to take care of others, but they have themselves to take care of. And, we wanted to make sure that we put in place some things to make sure that they were being taken care of. We did something called Reach Out. So where we would call our team members just because. We would call them, just, talk maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes to see how their day was going, how they were doing, did they need anything from us? If any of our staff did contract the virus, we always would send them a care package to their home. And we would check in on them as well to find out if they needed anything, how they were doing. Sometimes it was a matter of they were in quarantine because their spouse or their child may have contracted the virus, and we would still send a care package to them. We also put together a fund to support special needs and hardships. And that was just, money that we set aside if maybe we kept everyone working during COVID, even though work may have decreased because we had decreased referrals. We have patients in nursing facilities, and the nursing facilities were pretty much locked down, weren't allowing some of our CNAs to go in to their facility to do the baths and take care of their patients, so that they could keep COVID down and the people who were coming in and out. So what we did was we found other work for them, or if they didn't have enough work, they still had a paycheck, during that period of time. But there may have been someone whose spouse was laid off, or maybe they had COVID and they couldn't work, and they may need to pay a bill. They may have difficulties because half of their income is gone. So we had a fund that we had put together that they could apply for us to help them financially. We also started what we call President's Award, and that actually kicked off last fall. And it was an annual recognition for team members who exemplified our core values in a sustained and significant way. And it was employee driven, but they had to write about the team member that they were nominating for the honor and how they met our core values. And then the leadership team selected from those applications to determine who the winner was. And the winner, one of our board members actually donated, they had a vacation spot in Florida. So they donated a week to stay in their condo in Florida. So that was the prize. And
can we apply for that too?
No, management could not apply for that. So no, but the management team, we gave that award out the week of Thanksgiving. So that Monday before Thanksgiving, we went to Costco and we bought all of these pumpkin pies, enough for everyone at each of our office locations. Robert, I traveled to Northern Kentucky, to Florence, to that office, but we all stood outside and handed out the pumpkin pies to all of our staff. And then we also presented the plaque, and the runners up also got a monetary gift as well. And we presented that and did a photo moment 6 feet apart, to that team member. So that was a lot of fun. And then the other thing that we've done for kind of mental health and for recruitment and retention is to ask our staff, what is your why? Why do you want to be a part of our organization? Why are you still here? What is it that you like about what you do here? And we took that information, they may be videoed or they may have written it out. And we utilize that in our newsletter. We use it on social media, just to share it on a weekly basis. We have our free meeting day, one Friday per month, where there's no meetings. You can catch up on all your work. And one of probably the most significant things is we have a psychologist here, and Dr. King. And what she does is mindfulness moments. And every Monday, 8 a.m., and she does another session at noon for our employees, that they can log on a Zoom meeting and do meditation. And she kind of talks about the stresses that are going on. Also, with every meeting that we have, our standard practice is to have a good news check-in, where everyone shares either a personal or a professional update on their life or what's going on their teams. And it helps to allow each of us to get to know one another better. Just to have some happy, positive thoughts about what's going on. A lot of people use their kids because, they like to talk about their kids. Maybe it's their pets, or maybe it's just something that you feel you are thankful for, that you want to share. So
that's good stuff, Danita.
Yeah, and I could go on and on and on, but I'll give someone else an opportunity. One thing I do want to talk about, and maybe that's with the recruitment part, so maybe that's the next question.
All right, but think about what's it going to take for you all to mandate people get the vaccination, because I don't want somebody coming to my house or to my mom's house, to take care of her and run the risk of giving her COVID. Jeez, seems like a tough situation.
I will say that we are 72% vaccinated here.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's higher than the state, and we're still encouraging.
We haven't done the survey on this call lately, but we were doing it several times back in the March timeframe. Originally, it was like 25%, 75% wanted to get it, and then it was 72, and then it was, then it was 77 or something, and then it was 80. So we only had 20% that didn't want to do it. I don't know what that number looks like now, but I was pleased that our group in general on this call was pretty vaccine favorable. So, all right. So Janice, how about it?
Okay. Yes. So I guess, just looking back, even before COVID, we were very, I guess, flex or work-life balance. It took us a while to get there. I mean, it took, we had the conversations, the people asking for it. So, and it took a while for us to accept that, that would be a good thing. And maybe it's not for everyone, but we had for, like I said, years just where individuals can work from home, nothing on a regular basis. But what did come out of COVID for us was actually remote work. Where we actually have a remote work policy where, as long as they have certain things on our checklist, as far as the right setup and be able to be available during our office hours, that type of thing. So that did start where we did, and we have a few employees, not a lot, but we do have a few employees that do it, and I mean, they love it. So, and it's working out. I mean, it's working out even for the team. So that's one thing. I think that's really the only thing that maybe it's different that we did take out of COVID, and we feel like it's been a good thing for our team so far. One of the other things that I feel like we do that as far as maybe that's unique is, what some would call evaluations. We do have the annual review, with your annual income or salary increase, but we also started doing what we call conversations. So it's very informal. Whoever the team leader is, will meet usually either at a coffee shop or maybe take them to lunch, or just something where they're outside the normal office environment and just have a conversation. If there's anything documented, it's more about just remembering and being able to, have their checklist of what needs to happen for the next quarter. But we're doing those quarterly, and it's been a really good positive because it just gives a relaxed feeling, but then it also gives the employees, they feel like they can open up maybe more, maybe what they really feel. We too believe in development, as far as what it is that, whether it's classes or certifications that they're interested in, we definitely support that. One of the other things that I am proud of and love to do is the employee appreciation. And we do anything from having events, like we're getting ready to have a fall event where individuals will have lunch and then they can break out to either go play golf, have a wine tasting, go hiking. So there's a variety of different activities that they could choose from for that afternoon. And then we just do little things, just, maybe we did a favorites questionnaire. What's your favorite cookie? What's your favorite morning drink? What's your favorite place to eat lunch? And we have used those throughout for couple years, 2 or 3 years now. And actually, even with COVID, the team leaders actually sent little goodie bags to everybody's home and dropped them off at on their front porch. So that was nice. It was a box of goodies of, whatever their favorites are. The other piece that I feel like that we really thrive is our community. And so even through COVID, we were able to continue to do extras for our community. We took a lot of maybe the budget that we were going to use for something that was now going to be canceled, and whether it's travel or whatever, an event that we were no longer going to have, and we turned around and invested that in our community. And we also encourage and have several volunteer opportunities for our employees to go during office hours, and whether it's a food bank or helping with clean up a park, or so it's just a lot of just some community. It's not only good for the community, but it's good for our team to get together, especially at different offices. It pulls different folks into those environments that maybe we don't see each other as often. So, but those are just a few things that I feel like that our employees enjoy and feel like that's something that they are proud of as well, to work with us or for us. So
that's cool, Janice. We just added what's your favorite to something we're doing right this minute based on your input.
Okay.
We got something going out before lunch today to employees, and we're going to put something like that in there.
Oh, that's perfect. Right. That's perfect.
Robert, what's going on at Fischer Homes?
Yeah, so I think kind of like people have talked to, I think some of our journey started, even before what we had seen recently. So, we, part of being that employer of choice, I think going through, preparing for the best places to work, kind of getting a baseline on engagement told us quite a few things. And I think we were able to take action, on many of the things that people had highlighted. So communication is probably where we started, how do we have better and more thoughtful communication, whether it's, town halls where, with the pandemic that became more challenging, but we just started to move them to virtual, to, even a short update on what's going on with the company's COVID protocols and things there. So we really focused on communication to say, how do we make sure that we are communicating, particularly in a fairly uncertain time. We know that there was a lot of stress on people just from the day-to-day of, a business that was accelerating, but also then, outside of work. So that communication was something. But then, as we also worked on, our compensation plans, our benefit program. So as we looked at things and said, where do we need to be more competitive? We looked at things and said, what are high ROI items that are really, really low cost? What is going to provide a lot of value and meaning for the employees and our associates that, maybe even, have very little cost to them. So we changed our personal time off policy last year and gave everybody an additional week in there. So I think that was something that people certainly appreciated. And as the work-life balance may be a challenge. So everybody got more time there. We also implemented, I think, for our company, a pretty progressive policy around something we call inclusive leave. So if you need to be away for things like the birth of a child or caring for a family member, things that may be FMLA eligible, but there's some consequences there from a pay. So how do we help bridge the gap for some time while people need to be out of the office? So I think there were some things that we were able to do that I think really show that Fischer is different to help employees on the day in and day out. We also took advantage of the time when people were out of the office, during COVID, to remodel our offices, here in not only the headquarters but in some of our divisions. So we created more open spaces, more collaborative spaces. We have a brand new space in our building here that we call the basement. So the reason it's called the basement, the company was founded 41 years ago in the basement of Fischer Homes. And so we have a really cool space, for people to collaborate and hang out. And as we were bringing people back to the office, we had a kind of a welcome back week where we had anything from, coffee bars and donuts to food trucks set up for people out there, and ice cream day. And we finished it off with a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and yours truly broke his elbow in that. So there's a reason I don't play basketball anymore, and it's because of the injuries, but it was just a lot of fun for the people in there. And we've been pretty intentional as a company about team building. And I think this year it's even more so. So now that things have opened up, our expectation is that we are doing team building outside of the office and have events where people can include a +1. So here in a couple of weeks, I'm going with the HR team and a +1 to a really nice Reds game in the box there where we'll have catered, and everybody chooses what works for them. But you're starting to see pictures come onto our bi-weekly newsletter on the different things that people are doing. So I think we're really trying to drive that collaboration across the company in a number of ways, and that communication to make people feel more appreciated, that recognition that you talked about early on. But I think also we know that, and we'll talk about recruiting here in a minute, there are a lot of open roles in the company. We're not where we need to be from a staffing. So, we're trying to watch that work-life balance so we can, celebrate the wins and successes with the team building, and also recognize some of the pressure that people may be under right now, given just, where the industry is. So those are some of the things that we're doing to try to make sure that we're retaining people and keeping them engaged.
Oh, thank you, Robert. And I got to just say something quickly here. I was fortunate enough to be involved in a meeting that they had. It was during COVID. So, how many people, they don't have that many meetings like that during COVID, but they had this large room and everybody, only had like 2 or 3 people to a table, so it was really spread out. And then a lot of people dialed in. So it was both virtual and in person. And what they had done was they had taken the results of the survey and split them up into these teams. So the teams work virtually on how do we take the toughest things and address them. So then they had these teams give you reports. And of course, they were all done virtually too, but we're all looking at a big screen. So somebody in the room might speak up because they're on the team and somebody else is on the monitor. So it really engaged this group of leaders in the company. And this kind of blew me away. So one of the recommendations was we've got to do something about our vacation policy. And the chairman of the owner of the company is sitting right there. And he said, okay, well, let's just vote on this. And they just decided right then to add a week. And I'm thinking, how often does that happen? Are you all sure you want to add a week just like that? Add a week to everybody. Yep, we're going to do it. So I thought, man, there's a company ready for the future. Just hear the concerns, register them, talk about them, and then make a decision and move on. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, good work, Robert.
I think also somebody had mentioned, I think we also had taken a view, our chairman, just the family's a really great family, but at the very beginning of the pandemic, when we were sending people home, like everybody was, I think at least two, it may have been 3 times during the pandemic, everybody in the company got money to go spend at restaurants. So, we're going, and this happened at the very beginning when we weren't sure what was going to happen within the company, but, very strong believer in supporting the communities and all the communities where we operate. So, those types of things, in the end, it didn't cost the company a whole lot of money, but I can tell you the ROI that we got from the employees being able to go and take $75 or $100 out and just be able to spend it at restaurants and not have to submit receipts or anything. It was the honor system. I think it was really powerful to say, we want to take care of you, but we also want to take care of the communities where we live.
Wow, that's really cool. Oh, Staci, how about it? What's going on in Louisville with you guys?
Yeah, no, I really am enjoying hearing the responses from everybody. I think that it's so fascinating. It sounds like a lot of companies have their heads in the same places in terms of just some of the basic things in response to COVID that you need to do. So some of mine mirror, what my colleagues have shared, but so at the beginning, some were COVID response related tactics and others were growth related tactics. So, fortunate for us, we were growing during the pandemic. Like I mentioned, we hired over 200 people over the course of the last year and have increased, we've experienced huge revenue growth. So we've been in a very fortunate position. We're also a service provider. So we were able to transition everyone to work remotely. We had 0 company restructuring, like no layoffs, no restructuring that caused any kind of job layoff, or everyone was able to kind of go home and work successfully from home. And we are planning to bring people back into the office. We have a brand new state-of-the-art facility that we're really excited. We're going to do a big grand opening event and our first employee engagement event that we've not been able to do over the course of the past year. We're gonna have a big event to celebrate bringing people back together and the growth that we've been experiencing. But some of the other things, regular virtual town halls, it's something that our CEO and our executive team felt very strongly about, having that consistent, constant communication. And even if the communication was, look, we're all still kind of figuring this out, so bear with us. It really kind of meant a lot to our employees that we're willing to kind of put ourselves out there and say, this is new for all of us. We didn't necessarily have a COVID response plan in the back of our pocket to pull out. And so, we're going to figure this out together. And I think that really created a great team environment. But with our growth, we were so fortunate to be able to pay out over 100% of bonuses this past year, did our regular merit increases. And we also were able to promote over 100 people at all levels of our organization. So hiring all of these really ambitious and people who are ready to take their career to the next level, we were able to provide those growth and promotional opportunities by way of promoting from either, a frontline, maybe a benefit specialist to a case manager to a team leader, supervisor, all the way up to, we've had some VP level promotions that came from directors and really all levels. So, with all of the new programs that we're bringing in, it really created a nice opportunity for us to be able to do that. We also increased the investment in our 401k program. Now, for us being, like I mentioned, some were COVID responses, some were we're a newer and growing company where, we know that we're making these investments in our benefits and the programs that we're offering every year just by way of, being competitive and putting those things out there. But, even through a year of uncertainty, we were investing more in our 401k. We also launched a tuition reimbursement program. So, a lot of people were really happy to see that these new investments were happening in these types of benefits and programs. Our CEO also did a master class, is what he called it. So for individuals who were on site and vaccinated, and this was a recent class that we did, there was an opportunity for some of our top performers to spend time with him in a group setting, going through he had weekly sessions, and he actually invited in other CEOs and leaders from other companies in Louisville to speak and to just teach this group of people things that you don't learn in business school. That was kind of the whole premise of the course, is he wanted to share his knowledge with other people across the company and teach them things that they didn't learn in business school. So that was a really exciting program. We had people signing up for the next course, like ready to be involved in that. We did tons of different ice cream socials, different engagement events in our different offices. There was one like battleship game that they did, just different engagement initiatives, because there were some employees for us that had to be in the office because they were a part of a new program that we were launching. And then a large percentage of our employees were still remote, who were on existing programs that were already stable. So in order to, we had to create strategies that kept both groups of people engaged. So there was definitely a lot of in-office stuff that we were able to do, especially once, folks started becoming vaccinated. We did launch a vaccine incentive program. So we're raffling off Apple Watches and AirPods and different prizes for the next 3 months. We're also at a 72. That was really interesting. Your percentage of vaccine rate across the company, Danita. We're also at a 72% vaccine rate. We've had a pretty good response from our employees, and we've started early with the communication plan of when we're going to be bringing people back into the office, and we're going to work with the folks who are unable to get vaccinated and figure out a situation that works well for them as well too, and how we're going to manage that long term, because we were not a remote employer pre-pandemic. So that's a little bit new for us that we're still kind of navigating, but we are willing to do that as an organization. And then finally, the last thing I have noted here, and actually thought of it because of someone's comment in the comment box, we're actually piloting this feature called Dayforce Wallet. Our HRIS provider is called Ceridian Dayforce, and they offer this feature called Dayforce Wallet, and it allows for real-time pay, essentially. Dayforce is known for their really fancy algorithms with pre-deducting taxes and your benefit deductions from paychecks so that they can offer real-time paychecks to employees, and they can literally go in as much as daily if they want to cash in their paycheck. So I don't know if we'll do daily. We may do maybe allow it to happen a couple of times a week, but that's something we're piloting currently and hope to we plan to roll out in the future. So those were some of the things that we're doing here at PharmaCord, and as we continue to grow, we plan to keep layering in these different benefits and just things that are really important to people. I think it's being part of a growth organization, but also responding to the pandemic has been really interesting, but it has really challenged us to get creative to think of some of these things that are really effective.
Wow, Staci, great stuff. And the incentives, I mean, I think we got to keep getting this number up. So for vaccination, so I'm really glad you're doing that. And the Dayforce Wallet, well, Dave Hessler had asked us that question online on the chat box, and I was going to bring that up, but I think you covered it. And I can just say that we've seen that same thing. We actually had launched a short, quick pay, a part-time employee kind of project well before the pandemic, and it kind of shut down during pandemic because all those people were hourly paid, but we were looking seriously at a day pay, where you can get your money each day. It goes into your account, or something, so in some parts of our employment base, it's really, really important. So that's pretty cool. Good work. Okay. Hey, you know what? We had another question, but I think we covered pretty much everything. If somebody has anything they were saving to tell us quickly, and we're going to move on because I want Tyler to have plenty of time to talk about his legal update and so forth. Danita, were you saving something? Was anybody saving anything to add in the next question?
I don't really have anything big, but I will say that the governor did announce last week that we have 6,000 RN positions statewide that are vacant. And so, yes, recruitment is very difficult right now, and we are, we have the Amazons and some of the other companies that are advertising these big bonuses. And like you had talked about in the beginning, Lyle, the $15 minimum wage and above. So, It is critical for us. Yeah,
you got it. Hey, and by the way, the governor is doing another announcement today at 4 o'clock. We don't know exactly what he's going to say, but we're staying tuned, I think, for that, and just to see if he's going to put in more mandates for masks and stuff. There are like 7 states that still have a mask mandate in place right now, and some others moving back to it. So clearly this Delta is creating a problem. It's pushing our numbers up for sure, but primarily it's pushing them up among people that have not yet been vaccinated. So, hey, thank you, our guests. Like if we could do an applause, right there. Terrific. Thank you all very much. We really appreciate it. Our next guest to speak is Tyler Morris. And Tyler, we appreciate your putting some stuff together for us. Jump in and take it away.
Sure. For those that weren't here at the beginning, I'm an associate in Jim's office. I'm also his eldest son, as you can tell probably by the last name. Like Jim, I'm a multi-jurisdictional corporate law attorney. I'm currently licensed in Kentucky and Florida. I'm actually in Key West right now. That is not the real ocean. That is just a picture in a boardroom. So we'll get into some things here. We've got some mask updates nationally and in Kentucky. Kentucky's are just currently guidelines. Yeah, there we go. Next one. But it does have a possibility of moving further. Like you said, the governor does have an update today at 4 o'clock. So last Monday, the governor had new guidelines, really trying to get more people vaccinated, really trying to target the unvaccinated population in Kentucky to go get those vaccines. I know there's some people still resistant. Specifically, that new guideline stated that all Kentuckians who are unvaccinated should get vaccines if possible. And even those who are vaccinated should still try to wear masks indoors, especially if you're in higher risk categories. Those people who are more likely to get, especially this Delta variant, or who would have more severe complications should they actually contract COVID. But these are guidelines. He has not reinstituted the mask mandate. We'll see here in a few minutes that there are other states who do still have mask guidelines or mask mandates that have been tweaked a little bit by the CDC, but many localities, especially in California, are actually bringing on full-fledged mask mandates. Now, Lyle, I did hear you say earlier, and I know we're going to get into it here towards the end when we give the federal update about the $15 minimum wage for contractors. And that has not been enacted yet. That is not in place. It is a proposal. So they do have a few more months of comments, but I'd say it is likely to happen. But we can go on to the next slide and get into some of the national mask updates. So like I said earlier, there's 8 states still with mask mandates and 2 U.S. controlled areas. You got DC and Puerto Rico that do have mask mandates. However, they follow the CDC guidelines, which the CDC has said fully vaccinated individuals do not have to wear a mask indoors. Still recommended, but you do not have to. So those are the 8 states outlined there. And we're seeing California localities, look at Los Angeles and Pasadena, that have just reinstituted mask mandates in full, whether you are vaccinated or not. You have to wear masks indoors. And we're likely to see that really pop up everywhere throughout the country, especially in larger cities. But you see Pasadena, they have a population that's actually less than Lexington. So even some of the smaller areas are going to start seeing spikes when they don't have very high populations of vaccinated individuals. In Kentucky, I mean, we saw the governor either last week or 2 weeks ago discuss the issues with schools, and that if some of these school-age children that haven't been vaccinated but are eligible, those 12 years to 16 years, if they don't see vaccination rates increase, then they're likely to have some school closures throughout the year. We can go on to the next slide and get into some topics on the Great Resignation that you've been hearing about. There has been a mass exodus of employees from the workforce. You all know that better than anybody. Maybe not as much in the healthcare fields or from some of the people you've heard today, but it has increased across the board, especially in the lower paying jobs. So there's some things to think about for employers as well as employees that maybe hasn't been thought about yet. For employees, you've got to think of, okay, if you leave your job, are your benefits still going to be available? You have retirement, your medical benefits, and if you have medical insurance through your employer, are you going to be able to afford COBRA, because it's quite a bit more expensive after you've left? There's also the non-competition and non-solicitation clauses, and this goes both ways for both employers and employees. So if you have an employee that has a non-competition clause and a non-solicitation clause, if they leave that job and they're on the government assistance until, I believe it's September 30th, then after that September 30th guideline, most non-competitions and non-solicitation clauses are going to be for a term of about a year. Enforcement of those is going to become a big thing coming up very soon. Once that extra unemployment money ends, it's going to be a very big deal, and people like me are going to be very busy. So it's something that employers need to keep up with in terms of whether your employees do have non-competition, non-solicitation clauses, whether they are valid, and whether employees are going to try to break those and go work elsewhere if you're going to fight that, or if you're just going to let them leave. The other thing to think about for employers is going to be fighting the unemployment. And I know you all have dealt with that quite a bit. When you have employees that have left but may not be eligible for the unemployment, yet they're still trying to claim it, or even if you're getting, you're having false claims. We have somebody that we work with that owns a car business, and somebody was trying to set up unemployment and get the loans through the government, even though he wasn't asking for it. So it's getting more common. Hopefully with the extra money ending soon, it won't be as big of a problem for both employers and employees. But until that extra money dries up, it's going to be an issue. The other thing to think about is there is around 20 states that have already decided to decline the extra money for the unemployment that would normally end in September. You're seeing major businesses, Kings Island in Ohio has actually had to close or have reduced hours because they can't have they don't have enough employees to run the rides and have a good time. So it's not just affecting small businesses, it's affecting your multi-million, multi-billion-dollar corporations too. We can go on to the next slide. So these are some other things to think about, and kind of getting into that topic of how you can handle employee burnout and how you can negate those issues legally. And there are employment laws that allow you to help your employees get some rest. That you can run afoul of those, but we're going to try to work around that and figure out ways that you can better navigate that field. So some you've seen on the news, some businesses have let, especially in the tech field, have let their employees have weeks off, or the whole business will shut down for a period of time where you're able to really have rest days for everybody in your office. Now that leaves issues then if you have employees that are going to be required or mandatory. If you have employees that are having to work to run your business, to answer the phone, there's going to be some people left out. So you've got to navigate that, and really it's got to be a kind of an all or nothing. Then you have other options available, such as floating holidays. And that one is where you get a little bit tricky because every state has different laws on floating holidays. If you want to reach out to us for any particular state you're in, we can really get into that. But well, for example, I think it's California. If you run a use it or lose it approach to your floating holidays, which would be a holiday that an employee can take when they choose, not necessarily like a set day like Christmas, Thanksgiving. If it's an extra holiday where they can just take it as they need it, that is deemed an accrued benefit. So what that would mean is an accrued benefit is something they have already earned. So you can't use it or lose it. You can't say, hey, use it in this time or it's gone, because it's been earned. That has also caused issues for so a lot of government jobs, maybe other jobs as well. When you have essentially saved up enough time off, you can retire early. This use it or lose it approach is not allowed because that would run afoul of that. They are allowed to have those extra the floating holidays added on to their paid time off and their severance buildup for the cash out totals. So if that goes unused, they are allowed to hold on to it, and that does create issues. But again, it is an option to really keep the employee morale higher, because right now that is a big issue. You can look at extra paid time off. Employers are free to do that as they choose, as well as keeping the hybrid workforce or even fully remote workforce intact. I know my wife's job has gone into a hybrid workforce where she gets to work at home some days as well as in the office some days. So it's been a big difference for her, and I know many employers are really looking at that as a way to draw people in, because there's no rule against it. You just need to have a really structured policy that's fair for everybody. So we can go to the next slide. And there was a few updates federally. Like Lyle had mentioned earlier, there was a Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division proposed regulation that would implement what President Biden's executive order was, increasing the minimum wage for federal contractors permanently. It would begin in 2022. And the tipped employer wage would also go to $10.50. Now, this is working federal jobs. It's not going to be across the board. It's when you're working on a federal contract you've been approved for. But that would make a big difference, and it would probably start the discussion as to whether that minimum wage goes up across the board rather than just contractors. I know we don't like to get into politics in these, but our political choices do affect our businesses. And that includes especially the NLRB. So there was a vote on the NLRB, and Jennifer Abruzzo was confirmed via Vice President Harris casting the tie-breaking vote. What that does leave you with is a liberal individual holding the position. She was approved. And that is going to be big for unions. She's very pro-union. So that's something that you're going to need to monitor the NLRB, look at updates, and we'll try to publish those as well, because decisions are going to affect employment, and it's really going to be very pro-employee and pro-union. For those of you that had not gone in compliance with the emergency temporary standard that was set by OSHA, they have extended that deadline. It was supposed to expire at the end of last week. That has now been changed to August 20th, 2021. And that is when you will need to comply with the physical barriers, the ventilation, the training provisions that are related to the ETS for COVID-19. They've extended it. I think this is probably the third or fourth time now. So it's something to think about. You do need to get in compliance, but you have just under a month to do so. But we believe it's probably going to be withdrawn. There was kind of a pullback from COVID-19 until this Delta variant, but we're going to see a lot of changes going forward where COVID may make a comeback, unfortunately, and that leaves us more meetings with you, I'm sure. So that's where we are federally, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions in the chat box, Chase, or others want to share with us? I noticed somebody's got something in there about the humidity level in your building and how that can impact the spread. Christina Reisner. Christina, you want to take your mute off and say anything more about that? That's interesting. Really put her on the spot here.
Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear.
So at our facility, we have followed suit like most. We've taken those employees that are vaccinated don't have to wear a mask, and those that aren't still remain. But we originally were going to follow suit with the governor until this change came out that OSHA put into place on June 10th, the Protecting Workers Guidance to Mitigating and Preventing the Spread of COVID-19. And one of my employees has pointed out that there is a paragraph, that's a sentence that indicates particles containing the virus can travel more than 6 feet, especially indoors and in dry conditions with relative humidity below 40%. So they're asking, if the humidity is higher than 40%, then why should we have to still continue to wear a mask? Where we don't work in a temperature controlled facility for what we manufacture. I mean, they all have fans, the doors open, so on and so forth. You know, it's hot and it's very uncomfortable for a handful of people. And so I have some employees that are concerned that if the humidity is 76% outside today, like it is right now, we shouldn't have to wear a mask because the chances of getting COVID are so much more lower.
That something I haven't heard before. I think is very interesting.
I know, but I had someone that was very particular about that.
Yeah. Anybody else on the call have some specifics around that? Somebody started to speak up.
I could briefly touch on it. I think that's a question that Jim would find interesting. So I'll bring that up to him, and he may send out a little blurb on it too in terms of the OSHA guidance. All I can say from a legal side though is if OSHA tells you to do something, you have to do it. There's no getting around it for being uncomfortable or for just having a preference, because OSHA isn't going to be as specific as maybe it would be best in terms of picking a, that was kind of an odd situation that you brought up, and OSHA is more general guideline oriented, and it's not going to be picking this one small field of business that it may not necessarily apply to as well. But again, there is no mask mandate right now. In Kentucky, there is no mask mandate. I don't believe there's a federal mask mandate. I'll defer to Jim on that. But as of right now in Kentucky, there is no requirement. So that's something to think about as well.
Yeah. I tell you what, our situation is different. We don't have a lot of outside air, but we did put UV lights in our air handlers. So that really made people feel more comfortable about meeting in our office because, well, we're cleaning every bit of air that blows around in here. That's kind of a cool thing. It's not something everybody can do. And if you're in a huge facility, or if you're in an open facility, it doesn't probably work very well. But okay, well, we'll research that a little more. Are there any other questions that have come up? Let's, you know what? Oh, I thought on that last slide we had put the numbers for certification, and I don't see it on there, so that didn't get updated like we meant for it to.
I'm going to send them in the chat.
I'm putting them in the chat.
Good work.
It'll go out on the email blast as well afterwards.
All right, way to go. There you go. Autumn Morris, always on the spot. There they are, the two codes. If you want to look in the chat boxes, if you're accustomed to looking in there, you can pick up your SHRM 21-599 Mama. And the HRCI code is 565429. We want to thank everybody for joining us. Any final comments from any of our panelists or other people on board that would like to speak up? Now's the time. Angie Bailey, I know you always have something to say.
I've been really active in the chat. I love that folks are sharing their opportunities. I hope everyone's connecting really well. But I would love to hear some conversation. I was just getting ready to message you, Danita. We've got an organization in Louisville that has signs that say they're going to give a $10,000 sign-on bonus for LPNs, RNs, and even CNAs. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, being a nonprofit, that's very significant. I'm glad that it's in Louisville and hopefully hasn't made it to Lexington or Northern Kentucky or anywhere yet. But there are sign-on bonuses being offered here. We actually offer sign-on bonuses as well. We started out offering those for our hard-to-fill positions, and one of our most difficult positions to fill is our night shift for our inpatient unit, and we do offer a $10,000 sign-on bonus for those night shift positions, and we have done that for 2 years now, and it did help us to fill those. So we do have retention in those positions, but occasionally someone will move to day shift, and we will need to repost that. We do $5,000 bonuses pretty much for our other nurse positions as needed if they are difficult to fill. But that's the sign of the times, and that's one of the things that we budget for and have to do right now. I don't know how long that's going to be sustainable, but for right now, we are offering sign-on bonuses.
Hey, Nancy, right. I think that's a good program. Something that we've been proposing to different companies. $10,000, if you break it over the year, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but you divide it by 2,080 hours, that's $4.81 an hour. So if you're paying $11, obviously that gets you closer to what the direction of the world is going is 15, but there you get value for the $10,000 in the sense of retention. And if many companies look at how much their turnover cost, it's not unreasonable to expect that many companies can get to at least $5,000 when you look at all factors involved. And if that job turns every 90 days or 4 times a year, that's $20,000. So your business should be better by at least $10,000 if all those numbers play out. So it's not a bad thought that many businesses should consider. And we're working with a whole bunch of companies, ideas like that. But it is a creative approach.
Right. And we also break it up over 4 payments. So every 6 months is $2,500.
Danita, are you also hiring at the upper end of your pay range for those roles in addition to these massive bonuses that you're giving, or are you offsetting that in some other type of way? Just curious, because we're hiring RNs we don't have overnight shifts, thankfully, but we hired 30 RNs at the beginning of this year, and we didn't offer bonuses, but we were certainly up against Norton and other major healthcare employers in this area who were. So I'm curious if you were having to hire at the upper end of your pay range as well.
No, we aren't. It's primarily just the hard to fill positions, and primarily it's only our nurses, and we do offer some for our CNAs and our drivers, which is at the lower end.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing for I'm sorry, go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to ask Staci if you've calculated the cost of turnover. What's the impact to your organization when a person leaves after 90 days? I'm just trying to get a feel for how companies look at that.
Yeah, we certainly have. I mean, it is a substantial impact because we put new hires through 6 weeks of training too. So we invest a ton before they're even producing anything for us. And it is substantial, where I think that compared to some of the other healthcare organizations in our area, we're a service provider, and so we don't have any direct patient care. So we do hire nurses, but everything that we do is through telehealth or some professional services type of environment So, you know, a lot of nurses were trying to get out of those direct patient care type of roles. So I think that's where that's been a little bit more advantageous for us, but it's certainly, I mean, I think there even pre-pandemic, there's been an RN shortage for a very long time. So, you know, we're still having to be very competitive, and our response to it has been more so hiring at the upper end of the pay range rather than implementing that bonus. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's something we've looked at in terms of the cost impact to us. And, you know, it's just interesting to learn, and that's a different perspective we hadn't considered on that bonus.
Yeah, we're working with a number of companies that have been doing the $200, $400, $600, and $1,000 sign-on bonuses or retention bonuses, and they just don't seem to be playing out as helpful. I mean, some may be, but in general, we haven't found the case. So we jumped it up over, I mean, 6 weeks, even if they left twice a year, that'd be pretty expensive. So yeah, good point. Thanks for the insights.
Yeah.
All right. It's been a great day. Thank you all so much for your input. You know, people have made fun of me for sitting in front of this picture with those horns on my head. And I thought I'd just wrap up by saying this. Actually, this is painted at a SHRM meeting, drawn at a SHRM meeting. You see that little guy down in the bottom there? That's all of us looking out of the future. And there are a lot of mountains and clouds and other things in the way, but we keep doing these calls because we keep moving towards the light. So we keep trying to add some light to these challenges so we get better and better decisions in our company. So Staci, thank you so much. Robert, way to go. Janice, great input. Danita, you guys are awesome. And Brad and Angie and others that spoke up, we appreciate it. I'm going to keep the lines open for a few minutes if people just want to talk. Let's take the slide away.